So it's been about a year since I started playing Smash competitively and also trying to help people get better at the game. It's something that I really like to do. One thing that I have found to be a very consistent skill that people don't really get very well sometimes, including myself, is how to adapt. And some people don't really understand like what that means because they try to do it and then it just seems like they aren't receiving any sort of information. So I'm going to try and break it down in a simple way that can maybe get you started on learning how to adapt. So the first thing that I'm going to say, and this is something that people don't really mention a lot of the time, is that you should be looking at your opponent's character, at least in my opinion. You should be looking at your opponent's character instead of your own. And I think this is the reason why people say that you should get good movement, get comfortable with your character's movement speed, get good with your combos, and just make it muscle memory. That way you don't have to really like pay attention to what you're doing or like what you need to do in order to execute certain things, and you can leave the rest of your focus to your opponent. That way you can see what they're doing. When you look at your opponent, it's a completely different story in comparison to like looking at your own, because now instead of needing to feel like you can't react to anything, it's going to make some things a lot easier. And of course, playing online with the time now, there are some things that are still really hard to react to. But if your opponent starts charging like an F smash super early at the ledge, you're going to see it rather than looking at your own character and be like, oh, okay, well, I learned I need to mix up my timing, so I'm just going to sit here and then just do some random option. Rather than seeing that your opponent's charging an F smash, so you're just going to like stay on ledge or let go of ledge into a projectile or something like that. So try to look at your opponent's character more. It might feel really awkward when you're first doing it, but just by doing that, you might be able to see certain things that they're doing. And if you have solutions prepared ahead of time, so for example, if your opponent keeps jumping and you're playing Lucina and you know that forward air is very good for anti-airing, then you have a solution prepared ahead of time and you just need to know what to pick rather than like trying to figure out what you need to do. So I guess it was kind of like two tips. One, look at your opponent, and two, have solutions prepared ahead of time. And you aren't always going to have these solutions prepared ahead of time. Sometimes you're going to come across a new character or like a new move, or maybe you don't understand the move's properties. So sometimes doing something like a VOD review is very helpful, because then you can explore that move more and see like, oh, so it didn't turn out that I was just being really slow here. It's just that this move is invulnerable, and I thought that it didn't have a disjoint, but it does. So maybe I can't, anti-air. You get what I'm saying. The second thing I would say is try to understand like how your movement influences your opponent's movement. So I'll give you some examples here. There are some clips I'm going to be playing in the background here that show me getting things like finishing touch, for example. And people might say like, oh, finishing touch is really risky and it's not all that great, but you can find use for it, especially if you can sort of influence your opponent to do certain things. So a very common one that I tend to get is when I land in front of an opponent that's sitting in shield. If they like to jump, like if they just like to empty hop, or sometimes if they like to do an attack out of shield, then I can kind of control them in a sense where like what I'm doing is causing them to do a different thing. So like as the example, like jumping out of shield or attacking out of shield, maybe when I dash towards my opponent, they shield all the time. So although I'm not like actually taking my opponent's controller and holding down the shield button, my movement is basically indirectly controlling them in a sense. And this is kind of harder to do against better players because they understand this whole way of adapting and they can change their play style very easily. But against lower level players or people that play like in a one-dimensional way, this is an easy way to just win the game. Another thing can be like when you stand at a certain distance from the ledge, when you're ledge trapping them, maybe they like to roll a lot. So you just stay at that distance and it causes them to roll for some reason. Maybe when you hit your opponent, they jump all the time. And these are two things that I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you a few examples at the end of the video of these two exact things happening where I'm sitting at the ledge and my opponent just keeps choosing a certain option. So I just wait and then I just punish it. And I realize that hitting my opponent caused him to jump a lot. So then I just punished it. Like I'm not the one taking their controller and actually telling them to do this. It's just when this situation happens, they just so happen to do it. So if I continue to put them in that situation and I have a solution for what they're doing, then I can continue my advantage state. I can get out of disadvantage a lot easier. And again, this is done very well, or this is easier to do, I should say, if you're looking at your opponent's character. Because if I'm hitting my opponent and I'm like trying to make sure I end up in the right position, so I look at my own character so that I can position properly for the ledge trapping phase, I may not even notice that my opponent's jumping every single time after I hit them. So it kind of ties in together with this. So with those 3 tips in mind, I would like to say that these are some very simple things, not easy. I want to make that clear. Very simple things that you can implement. It'll take time, because for people who aren't doing any of these things, it's going to feel awkward, or it may not feel easy for them to do. And it's especially going to be a little bit tough if you aren't very familiar with your character's moveset or like their movement speed or anything, because perhaps you're looking at your opponent and then you just run off the stage and you don't even notice that you're running off the stage. For me, like, I've been playing Cloud for about a year now, and I've gotten fairly used to the way that he moves, but sometimes I still make mistakes, even though I've played the character for so long. I've basically only played Cloud for probably like a year and a half now. It's not very easy to make like super major mistakes anymore, because I can use my peripheral vision to get a very simple idea of where I am. And if I just know that, then it's relatively easy with all the experience that I've had not to make those big mistakes anymore. But if you find it very hard or like very awkward and you're losing where you are, I would say stick with it for a little bit. And continue to practice your movement, practice your combos. If you can't get a combo without really focusing, then go into training and grind that out. If you find that dash dancing is very hard, then and you kind of like lose where you are because you're trying to dash dance and then you accidentally get the little pivot animation, then practice dash dancing. If you find that you don't know how to juggle properly unless you're paying super close attention, so you do like falling up air on Lucina into rising up air, again, that's like a combo or a string, then go ahead and practice that. You got to make sure, at least for me, you got to make sure that like you have your combos down and that your movement is at a level where you don't need to put so much focus onto executing those combos, and instead you can just do them, and you just need to know when to do them. So I'm going to show you 2 examples now of adaptation, and one is going to be me playing Banjo on Quick Play. This was like when he first, or in Elite Smash, when he initially like first came out, and then another one's going to be me playing Cloud. So let's get into it. So this first example is going to be me playing Banjo. Like I said, this is when Banjo initially first came out, so if you're like, oh my gosh, your Banjo sucks, then I apologize. But we're basically going to be looking at ledge trapping. So what I wanted to highlight here is like pay attention to what my opponent does at the ledge, right? So I throw him off the ledge, and I'm just standing in a pretty like default position. Like I'm standing pretty much at roll distance, so if he rolls, I can catch it. If he decides to do regular get up, it's like, I find this to be a pretty decent position, like a decent general position. So he decides to roll, and I react to it. This is the first time I'm ledge trapping him, so it's not like I have any information on the way that he likes to get up from ledge. But now I do. So now I know he likes to roll from the ledge. Or like, that's an option that he can pick. And he decides to roll again. I thought he would pick a different option, so I tried to cover a different option when I saw him move. But he decided to roll again. So the 2 times that he was at the ledge, he decided to roll. So in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, this guy just really likes to roll. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sit at roll distance. And he just so happens to roll into me again. I was initially just trying to cover roll, but he rolls again. So every single time so far, he's picked roll or regular get up into roll. So now I know he has those 2 options. He's obviously capable of pressing the jump button or pressing the let go into attack, but like, these are the things that he is capable of. These are the things that he's shown me that he does. Okay, regular get up, I just cover that. So I'm only going to be really covering these 2 options because these are the only 2 that he picks. And he decided to jump here. So he's kind of schmixed me a little bit. So I know he has those 3 options now. And out of those 3 options, he's picked regular get up and roll a lot. So let's go to another ledge trapping scenario. All right, so I get to throw him off stage again. And I'm sitting here in that general same position. I think I'm a little bit too far, actually. I kind of reacted to him doing the up B, and I just missed my opportunity to punish there. He decides to roll up from the ledge again. Like, those are the things that he does. So I just grab him and throw him back off. I tried to go for a down smash, but it was a little bit too slow because I figured that he'd roll again. All right, he's on the ledge again. What is he gonna do? He just regular gets up into roll. Like, he just loves to do that. Those are the options that he's shown me. And I'm sitting in that same position. My position is basically like, it could be influencing to do those decisions, because if I'm standing there, he probably thinks that I'm going to run into him and grab him, so he's trying to roll or something. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a habit. But because I've been paying attention to what he's doing, I'm not going to try and cover jump. I'm not going to try and cover get up attack. I'm not going to try and cover let go of ledge into an attack, because he's never shown me that he's capable of doing these things. Against lower level players, it's very easy to like just pick the options that they're doing and just cover those. Against higher level players, like I said, they're going to adapt. So even though they might not necessarily show you an option, depending on their skill level, you might still need to keep in mind that like they still have the ability to use those. But like, he's just doing the same thing. I'm just paying attention to him and what he's doing. I'm like, oh, okay, he likes to regular get up into roll. He decided to regular get up, so I'm just gonna run back and then just F smash where he's going to be. All right, so it's probably gonna be another ledge trap situation. So he's on the ledge again. What options what options has he picked? What option is he going to pick? He's gonna pick one of three, and two that he really likes, which is regular get up into roll or roll. Sometimes, one time so far, he will jump. So you can see I'm already, like, I'm kind of going a little bit early, to be honest. I'm just trying to go for the read at this point. I'm not really reacting. And look what he does. He decides to roll, because those are the only options that he picks. So it's not very hard to adapt if I have a solution to it, and I'm just paying attention to what he does at the ledge. This is just one thing that I really paid attention to. In this game, like I mentioned earlier, is that this Pichu is going to jump all the time. So basically what I ended up doing is I just paid attention to the Pichu, and I was like, oh, I see a pattern here. He likes to jump all the time. So whenever I get damage on him, look what he does. He jumps. Like every time. Even if he hits the ground, he decides to jump right after. It's just like, oh shoot, I got hit, so let me jump. It's almost all the time. So he jumps here, and so I jump too. And look at that, he's just dead. Like, he just dies within the first, what, 30 seconds of the game? And that's all I really did. Like, I didn't do anything special or anything crazy. I just kind of played neutral, and I so happened to win it a couple of times. And just looking at the Pichu, I kind of screwed up this one here, but I had the right idea. I just looked at what he did, and he just disappears. So this is an example of like how you can push your advantage a little bit more by paying attention to what your opponent does. I hit him with cross slash. What does he do? He jumps. He loves jumping with T-Jolt. What is he gonna do? He's gonna jump. And look at that, he's dead again. Just because I can, like, I'm just watching him. That's all I'm really doing. And I just so happened to find a pattern. So I hit him. What is he gonna do? He jumps. I didn't cover it properly, but you can see even there, like, I'm going for things like big read, jumping cross slash, but it's just because he's shown me a pattern, like a very big habit that he has. And at the time, this was Elite Smash. Don't think that this is like low-level quick play or anything like that. This was Elite Smash. So I hit him. What do you think he's gonna do when he gets close to me? He just, like, it's really, really simple. It's not easy, but it's really simple. At least the way that I've kind of come up with this idea of, like, just pay attention to what your opponent's doing. But it's just simply just like looking at different things, and certain characters are going to be able to take advantage of different things better than other ones. So maybe Mario might be better at covering spot dodge because, you know, he can get a grab combo off of it and potentially kill you, whereas maybe Lucina might get like a side B or an up air juggle, which by no means is it bad, but I'm just trying to show you that like different characters can cover different options a lot easier in comparison to other ones. So like, if Greninja is jumping out of shield all the time against a Little Mac is not going to have a good time covering that with an aerial, because even if he hits the Greninja, which I don't think he can if he full hops, he's not going to get any sort of reward off of it. Depending on what character you play, you might be able to cover different things, and depending on the character that you're playing against, certain things will be better to cover. So hopefully this gives you like a starting point on how you can adapt. By no means are the things that I showed you like the only things to look out for. Some, like, this is where you can kind of get creative and try and figure out how your movement or like what situations your opponent is really like giving you a pattern for. And this is why I think paying attention to your opponent is really important, because then you'll be able to see these patterns. And sometimes you'll be able to just create them on the spot. So it's like, oh, wow, my opponent really likes to roll back after... Excuse me. My opponent really likes to roll back every time I hit their shield. And that's not really something I talked about or showed you an example of. But if you have a solution to that, then you can cover that yourself. So I think the thing I'm trying to say here is that, like, you can be creative with what you're looking out for and the ways that you cover those options. Some characters will be better at covering certain ones and other characters won't be. So hopefully this gives you the sort of like foundation of how I like to see adaptation. There are probably other ways to do it. So if you found that adapting in a different way, or maybe like through a different lens, helped you, then leave that down in the comment section below. If you guys want some help on trying to get better at Smash, feel free to subscribe. I also stream on Twitch on Mondays and Fridays, usually around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I do view arenas, VOD reviews, and try to give people tips on how to get better at the game. So if you're interested in that, feel free to follow me on Twitch as well. And that is basically it. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. See you later.